Well, I'd like to use this drawing to answer a couple of recent questions from gCADPlus users. The first question is related to the use of transparency. Notice that this existing tree symbol here, let's zoom in on it, we can actually see through the canopy down below and look at the planting. If we go to View and take off Transparent Render, you can see that in the design here, let me put it back on again, at least a couple of symbols, maybe more, have transparency associated with them. And that's done so that we can look down at the understory vegetation. There's one disadvantage. If you print this design to an A3 sheet, so I went File and Print it to a Qt PDF writer, and I did that from an A3 layout sheet. Let's have a look at the result. And here's the result. This existing tree here that had transparency associated with it, the transparency doesn't show, and we get a solid fill on some of the others. The other big disadvantage is it took 15 minutes on quite a fast computer to print. So use transparency sparingly on designs of this type. Of course, a more convenient way to print is just go File and Save as a PDF, nominate a window, we'll go for maximum resolution and just put a box around the corner there, and we'll print. We'll put it on the desktop and we'll call this Print PDF 2 to distinguish it from the earlier one. And gCADPlus runs away and creates the PDF file. And hopefully we'll see transparency rendered quite nicely. Well, here we are. My computer's automatically opened up Acrobat Reader, and I'll just shrink it a little so you can see transparency is being applied correctly. Well, the speed of printing and the resolution I think is quite acceptable. Let's zoom in a little and we'll move down, and that's quite nice detail. Well, if you needed finer resolution, there's a simple solution to that. Go to Format and Line Weights. The default setting is 0.25 of a millimetre and by layer, but what I'm about to do is change that to somewhere halfway between 0.25 and 0, 0.13, and I will apply that. Once that's done, and I can OK it, I can go through that same sequence of File and Save as PDF, set the window, set the maximum, and we can plot or print a PDF in exactly the same way. It will take just a little longer. We'll make this one PDF 5, probably double the time of the previous one. But when that's finished, I'll open up PDF 5 and you can have a little look at the result. Well, it actually happened in that same length of time, quite a bit quicker. And I'll just move down. And I think you should be able to see that the line weight is showing more detail. Well, the second query involved the use of the hatch command. Let's remove hatching. Well, the second query involved the use of the hatch selection area and the influence of overhanging symbols. Notice how these symbols here overhang the deck. So let's get rid of the hatching for the moment. And if you wanted to hatch that deck area, the easiest and most effective way to do it is to go Draw and Hatch. I'll pick up the gCADPlus ISO hatch pattern and we'll set a lines pattern. And we'll go at an angle of 90 degrees and we'll pick a point, pick an entity in here, or space in here. See how gCADPlus radiates out and finds the boundary. That's exactly the boundary we want. But what happens if we take a symbol such as this one and explode it? In other words, if there are entities that overlay that space, what's the hatch command going to do? So let's again take pick point, parallel lines, pick a point, click, and you'll notice that this time the hatch boundary is formed around the edge of that symbol. Because so that symbol is not a single symbol. This one here has a base point in the middle, but as soon as you explode, such as we've done here, that will confuse the selection of that boundary. So if you needed to hatch that area and did have overhanging, broken up elements, you're going to have to draw all the way around the space carefully. So I hope that covers. gCADPlus can do a reasonable job, but it can't read your mind as far as hatching is concerned.